All right, guys, welcome back to the shack. Tonight, I'm going to answer a question that I get asked a lot. How do you make money with tumblers, with a diode laser? And I'm going to break it down for you best I can using the xTool S1, the RA2 Pro, and 40 tumblers. So we're going to knock out about $600 worth of profit tonight, and I'll show you how I'm going to do it. So stick around, and let's get started. All right, guys, so a little background on this job. This is a business-to-business type job. I tell you guys a lot. That is some of the better work that you can get because, for one, they're going to pay good. You're going to get bulk orders, and it's going to be a relationship with that business that will continue to pay dividends for hopefully years to come unless something bad happens. So tonight, what we're going to be doing, I've got a local farm supply store that I've been doing tumblers for, and they purchase these from their wholesaler. Like I said, all I'm doing is charging them to put the logo on there and sending it back to them. So that keeps me out of a lot of the logistical challenges. I've got 40 of them on the table. I've already did 4 that they needed back kind of quick. I got those out yesterday, so those have been done, but we're gonna knock these out. Now, there are gonna be some changes with the settings, and we'll go over that as we go. But I'm going to be using the 40 watt xTool S1. Guys, I've got lots of lasers. I've got several CO2s, but the combination of the S1 and the RA2 Pro currently is the best setup that I've got for doing these, in my opinion, the way that my workflow, the way that I like to do it, being able to exhaust it and all that. I've got the F1 Ultra. It does a great job with tumblers, but the problem that I have with it is it doesn't exhaust as well as this machine does. This is the xTool S1 40 watt, and I've also got the AP2 down here under the bottom, and that's where all of the fumes and stuff from the cut are being exhausted to. It's set up to run automatically, and it is a smooth little setup. So I'm gonna get the camera, move it around, and we're gonna go through how I've got the chuck and everything configured to make sure that I can turn these things out fast without error. And then we're going to start making some smoke. So stick around, let's get started. All right, so let's walk over here, and I'm going to show you my setup. And excuse my junk down there, guys. I've got to have a place to keep my honeycomb when it's not in use. But there's the AP2. Everything operates off of this cart. And in case you're wondering, I will drop links to the cart also. This is just kind of my little portable setup. I've had it on this cart for a year or two now, and it works really good. It's very sturdy. The machine doesn't move around a whole lot because of the way the xTool S1 runs, but yeah, it does a good job. So in here, I get a lot of questions about how do you have your chuck set up and so forth. Well, I've done videos in the past, guys, but don't freak out and be like, oh, Clack, you've showed this before. Yes, I have, but I have not shown you since I've got the new accessory kit for my RA2 Pro. Now, the thing that I like about the accessory kit is it does, if you use it in this configuration with the leg on there, it not only does it give you an option of adjusting this knob to set the pitch on the tumbler, but it also gives you a little bit more room right here for those larger cups, things with handles or studs where handles come from. Gives you a little more room right here when you take that base plate off that you don't normally use. I have both the RA2 Pro with and without the accessory kit, but since I got this and started using it, I really like this adjustment here that allows you to adjust the pitch and get it flat, as well as having this little bar is all I got. And so that does a good job of supporting it and keeping everything flat. Now, you'll notice that I do have my little jig here that holds this in place. That little fixture, jig, whatever you want to call it, all that does is make sure that from tumbler to tumbler, this does not move. This is always going to be in the same spot every single time because it is fastened here. And if you notice in the back of my machine, I've got these little blocks that are screwed to this board that's under the bottom here. And then I've got little corner pieces that just kind of hold everything to make sure the machine cannot move independent of my RA2 Pro. So even if I grab this and rock it, it's not going to move. That is very, very necessary if you want consistency and be able to load these things like you're going to see me do here tonight. So there you go. But that's how I'm doing it, is I've got this set up. And the reason I've got it over to the right instead of in the center is if I do want to do longer things, that gives me a little bit more room. And most of the time, the engraving is going to be in the center of the work area anyway. So if I put this in the center, my engrave would technically be left. So this works out really well. All right, guys, so we're going to get another tumbler loaded up and ready to go here. Like I said, these are some really big. These are very comparable to the Stanleys as far as size and everything. They do have a screw-on lid, and what you have to do is take the lid off. There's stickers and stuff inside there. I do have to take this little paper piece here off, of course, to engrave them and get that thing out of the way. So that actually is probably the most aggravating part about doing these, is having to take this little piece of paper here off, because I never can get it to just cooperate. So there we go. So there we are. Now, one thing that I am doing is, if you can see right here where it's got Mammoth is already engraved in it, I'm going to put my engrave over here on this side. It still says Mammoth there, but it's not engraved. So this is the side that I'm going to be using for the front. Now, with these, there's 2 screws under the bottom right there. Phillips head screwdriver, and you can take these 2 screws here out. You don't even have to take them all of the way out. I get them to where they're free of holding anything, but it seems like most of the time when you're taking this top screw out right here that's inside the handle, you kind of have to come in from this angle. Occasionally you can come in from the outside, but most of the time you have to come in from that angle because of the way the screw was put in. And this should just pop right out. Now, be careful with those screws. You'll be on your hands and knees looking for them. They will get lost. Once you get the handle off, you got these 2 little studs right here that are built into the tumbler. But luckily, the way that we're setting them up with the RA2 and everything, that's not going to be a problem. All right, so I've got everything off of the cup. It's ready to go. I'm just going to put it in here, and I'll try to show you all of the things that I'm kind of doing as we go. So I've gotten it in there. The one thing that you do want to do, and you really only have to do this the first time as long as you don't do crazy with it, is you want to take the little level, put it on the tumbler, make sure that the bubble is in the center. Like I said, this is the new Pro accessory kit, and so you can just literally turn this dial and adjust that, and that looks good, so we're good to go there. The next thing that I'm going to do is I want to take the module and slide it over, and using this is the little laser thing that comes with the new accessory kit. It's pretty handy, and watch over here and I'll show you why. So I'm going to set this up here and lock it in place, turn on the laser, and I'm going to rotate this tumbler until I get it centered here as far as on the tumbler itself. You can see there's a green line. This laser projects that green line across the tumbler there. And so the next step that I'm going to do is I've got my little gauge here. This is a 65 millimeter gauge that I have made using the laser. So I'm going to take this module and I'm going to pull it over here, and I'm going to line up my 65 millimeter gauge with the top of the cup, and I'm going to use these crosshairs to try to make sure that I'm spaced 65 millimeters off of the top of the tumbler this way. So I want to be 65 millimeters down, and I'm also going to use, and I'll try to get it to where you guys can see it. All right, so a little closer view just so you can see. This is the laser alignment tool, and you can see I've got it kind of lined up going down through there on the Mammoth. It goes all the way to the end of the tumbler. You can even see it on the module right there where it's going across. But I'm using my little 65 millimeter gauge here just to make sure that I'm correct as far as my standoff from the top of the cup. And then I'm putting that crosshair, I'm lining it up with this gauge and that green light. That way I know that is where I want that image to go. And that way we can just do the engrave. Now, after this one has completed, I'll go ahead and show you now. After this tumbler has completed and the machine stops, we're just going to push this back far enough that we can get this one out, and then I'm going to pull the gantry back to me, and I'm just going to line it back up with the green line on the next tumbler. That's all I got to do. All right, guys, so we're over here in XCS. I always use the XCS software with my S1. It's just much simpler than trying to use Lightburn with it. I like the features such as the crosshair tracking in XCS. Makes it really handy for doing tumblers. As you can see, this is where the laser head is located currently. That's in the center of my logo. So that's what I want. Another thing is when you're setting the focus with these, I like to stand my focus off about 3 millimeters. I've got a little ruler that I will lay on top of the tumbler underneath the where the probe location is, and then I'll probe it. Now, luckily for me, this is a saved file. I've already put that in there. In case you've never done tumblers again, you're also going to want to make sure you have Chuck use rotary selected here. And then once you do that, you're going to have either the perimeter, which is the circumference, or the diameter of the tumbler or the item being engraved. You're going to want to put that in here. And then also you've got to make sure you set the distance from the laser head to the material so they can have proper focus. Other than that, the only other problem or thing that you're going to have to come up with is going to be the settings. This is the settings that I'm running with these particular tumblers. Each one is going to require different adjustments possibly. Even with this brand of tumbler, each color requires a slightly different power setting. The blacks, the reds, the dark blues, the darker colors, I'm running at 60% power, 300 millimeters a second at 200 LPC. The lighter the color, like when you get down to white, that's when I'm going to bump it up to about 80% power just to make sure, because you have with the lighter colors, you have a lot more light reflectivity, which is going to result in not as good of an engrave with that same power. So you kind of have to, slide scale your power a little bit based on the reflectivity of the color. So the darker colors are going to always take a little bit less power with the blue lasers than with the whiter colors. So there we go. We got that set up. I'm going to go ahead and tell it to process, send it over to the machine, and we'll hit the button over there and get it started. All right, guys, so we've got number 1 going, and we've got about 39 more to go throughout this video. That's going to be kind of where we're at. I'm going to do the reds, the blacks. I've got a few of these solid black ones here. I'm going to be doing those. Then I'm going to work my way over to these green, these like forest green colors. These darker colors, I'm going to do them first. Then I'm going to have a few of these orange ones here. I've only got 3 of the orange ones. I know what you're thinking. But yeah, I like the orange ones. Then I've got coral. What is this other color right here? Some kind of light blue. It doesn't say the name. Then we've got these glow-in-the-dark ones. These are fun. The laser does some weird things to these because the way they trap the light. And then I've got a whole bunch of the white or cream colored ones over here. I think these are actually white, but some of them are more of a really light, like gray or something like that. But that's what we're going to be doing. I'm just going to be running these things and cranking them out. I'm going to try to show you the differences and the things to look for as we go. If I happen to mess up on one, we'll go over where it went wrong as far as settings or whatnot. But I'm hoping not to mess up on any because these things are not cheap. I think these blanks are like 30 bucks a piece. So you don't want to go messing them up. So hopefully we won't. And so I've got, 39 left. So it's going to be a full night, but hopefully it'll be a fun night and we can teach you guys some stuff about doing tumblers. So now we wait. All right, guys, so got the last of the red ones done. And as you can see, coming straight off of the machine, the engrave looks a little suspicious. Now, for cleaning, there's a few things that you can do. Typically speaking, I'm just going to use regular rubbing alcohol, but you can just use like Windex. It works, as well as LA Simply Awesome. LA's Totally Awesome, my bad. I get it mixed up. All of those things work. The key is you're going to want to have either like this is a generic form of the magic erasers, but you're going to want to have something like that. For drying it off, you can use a microfiber cloth or just an old piece of t-shirt. That's what I use. So this one, we'll go ahead and we'll clean this one using my traditional rubbing alcohol. Just give it a couple of little spritz right there. And I'm going to take this, and I'm not going to bear down. I'm just going to buff it basically, just really lightly. You want to keep in mind that magic erasers are like basically like a 2,000, 2,500 grit sandpaper. So you don't want to bear down too much because you can remove material. Then I'm going to take my rag, and I'm going to dry wipe it with the rag a little bit, and then just rinse it off one last time just to make sure that I got all of the loose char and stuff like that. And then I get the engrave there. Now, when you get the engrave, the way that I run mine with the Z offset raised up about 3 millimeters, I don't get, and it's going to be hard to show you guys here, I don't get those lines. And the reason that I don't get those real defined lines are because I've raised the focus up so that the line can overlap and it's not digging into the stainless steel. You don't want to dig into the stainless steel. The goal with this is to simply remove the powder coating. You want it to look like that from the factory. Basically, that's all you're after. Remove the powder coating. If you notice that your engrave has kind of got a gray or brown hue to it, like the metal has changed colors, you're too hot, okay? If you've noticed that even after you've engraved it, it's still got like a pink or red hue to it, you're not hot enough. There's a balance. You're going to want to test, and when I say test, I mean you're going to want to test these things. Now, if you're using a 40 watt S1 with these exact tumblers and you use my exact settings, from what I've seen over the last 4 or 5 batches that I've done, you're probably going to have pretty good results, but there's no guarantee. It's always best to test whenever possible. Now, I've done enough of these that I'll do 1 or 2, and if I need to tweak the settings, I will. But so far, I've been having really good luck with the standard engraving settings that I use. So I've got a black one going now. I'm going to go ahead and put this one back together, and we can wait on that one to finish over there. With these, like I said, the screw holes in these handles face downward. So you're going to just put that on there, set it on, and then I like to start with the easiest screw, which is the bottom one, and just get it down in the hole and take my screwdriver and screw it on there. If you can magnetize your screwdriver, or you have a magnetized screwdriver, it does make this part of the job a lot easier. You don't want to over tighten these, just tighten them down snug and call it done. This one's magnetized. These are actually my new DeWalt screwdrivers, so I don't know if I've magnetized this one yet. I may not have. I may have to go get my little magnetizer during the break here in a second and magnetize that one. But yeah, it's working really well. I've been finding the majority of these, I don't know if it's a left-handed person or what, but the majority of these come in from this side, but occasionally I'll find one where it looks like the screw came in from this side. So I don't know, but got that done, and then I'm going to put this thing just back like it was when it came to me. I'm going to put the stickers and stuff in there, put the top back on this, and these are threaded tops. Then they can be a little frustrating, and bubble wrap back around it. The only thing that I took off that I'm not putting back is, of course, going to be that little piece of paper that the tumbler shipped with. So I'm going to take that, box it back up, and as I get them engraved, I'm putting them back in the boxes over here the way they came. And so as soon as the black one gets done, we'll clean it up. And for it, I think we're going to go with the LA Awesome on the cleanup on that one. All right, so this one right here is about to finish up, and I'm just going to show you the process. When you're getting ready to change them out, I like to try to make sure I've got the cup oriented properly. I went ahead and got my text lined up the way it needs to be lined up, because I want to try to maximize this part of the operation. This is where a lot of your time is going to get lost. And so I like to make sure I've got everything ready. And all I've got to do now is reach in here, release that one, set it over here to the side. I'm going to grab the one that's going in there. I'm going to take it back over here, drop it in. I don't use the chuck key per se, I just use my hand. But if you don't have good grip strength, you may have to do it otherwise. Then I'm going to put the laser on here. I'm going to align this tumbler. I'm using that second M as kind of my go-by location. And then I'm just going to grab this gantry and I'm going to pull it up until the line on the laser is crossed. Then I'm going to throw this over to the side, close the lid, and double tap the go button, and we're back to operating again. So that's where you're going to save valuable time, is that swapping out of the tumbler. So now while this one's running, I'm going to be cleaning this one and getting the next one ready to go. All right, so for this one, as we discussed, I'm going to use some LA Awesome on this one. Same basic principle. I'm just going to give it a couple of little squirts right there. I'm going to take my magic eraser, just kind of basically just rubbing it. You don't want to bear down. You don't want to go crazy with it. Just rubbing it in a little bit right there. Getting it to kind of clean up. And the stuff with this LA Awesome, it does a really good job, but it's a little more difficult to clean up because it takes a second. But you can see I got a good nice shine with that as well. The black ones, guys, the black ones do really, really well. Anytime you're doing tumblers, if you're new to tumblers, I would strongly recommend start with black ones, because black ones engrave, they're the easiest ones to engrave with a diode laser, in my opinion, because they absorb all visible light. Therefore, the black, it's easy to get those nice, crisp edges like that. It's just so easy. So that would be my recommendation. If you're new to doing tumblers and you want to start practicing, do black ones. Black ones will build your confidence really quickly compared to white or light blue or some of the other colors that can be such a pain to do. So, little tidbit of advice there. So I'm going to come back in here and just put the screws back in the handle on this one and repackage it, get the next one ready. And that's the thing with, to me, the small things in life as far as work, it's the small things that make the biggest difference. You don't think about the 10 or 15 seconds between, you know, loading and unloading your machine until you're doing 40 of something. But if you're taking 10 seconds longer on an operation and you're performing that operation 40 times, so you're looking at what, 400 seconds, it builds up. It makes it starts adding up. So I try to cut out as much downtime as possible by having the laser run and then me performing some of these little meaningless tasks, such as putting in the box. So I'm going to put that one over here back into one of the boxes out of the way. I've got that one engraving. It's sitting here with this, all the parts for it. So I'm just going to crack open another one and start getting it prepped. And it's, guys, it is repeat and rinse, repeat and rinse. So if you're not somebody, let's see if I can get lucky on this one. These things can be a nemesis. Look at that. Peeled it right off. All right. So I'm just going to throw that in the middle of the table. Unscrew the lid. Dump out the contents. You could technically, with these, I could probably leave the lid on them and be okay, but I remove it anyway. I haven't found that perfect screwdriver for this operation yet, because you got to have one big enough to fit the screws properly, but you don't want it too big because then it can't go down in the little hole where the handles are. So it's a bit of a challenge finding that. Like I said, these little screws, you gotta be careful. You will drop those. It has happened, and they're hard to find. All right, got another one here, hot off the presses. I'm just gonna push the gantry back enough to get it out of the way. Release this one, set it over here to the side, grab my new one. All right, I've got the black mammoth up, so that way I'm on the opposite side of the factory engraving. Just gonna clamp that in there. Got my little trusty alignment laser. I'm gonna drop that up top. I'm gonna rotate this tumbler until I get it lined up on the M where it's supposed to be for the green laser. Then I'm gonna take and pull the gantry back forward until the crosshair lines up with my green laser. And then I'm simply gonna remove that, sit that back closed, and double tap the button, and we're back running again. And it's rinse and repeat, guys. Rinse and repeat. So I'm gonna run the rest of these darker colors, and it will drop back in, and I'll show you how to do the lighter colors in a minute. But first, we're gonna clean this one. And we've used the rubbing alcohol, we've used the LAs. Now, so use some regular Windex, just to show you guys. You don't have to have anything fancy. If you're just getting into this, you can do it with whatever cleaning agent you have. You could literally just put some water and a little bit of dish detergent in a spray bottle if you wanted. The only big difference is going to be some are a little more abrasive than others, and some are a little harder to get off than others. Windex is one of those that's really easy to get off of the material because it's made to dry and not leave streaks. So there you go. that is Windex. So as you can see, it really doesn't matter. Because I hear a lot of people, you know, oh, you got to use this. Oh, you got to use that. No, you don't. Something light that's not too abrasive, not too rough, because you don't want to scar or scratch up the material. So you just want something that's going to get that residue off of there and make that baby shine. So there we go. I'm going to run through the rest of the dark colors, and I'll catch back up with you guys in a second once I get over to the oranges. All right, guys, so I told you I'd come back and check in with you when I got the orange one going, and I've got to the orange, and we've got those guys turning out and looking pretty good there. So the secret to doing these tumblers with the diode laser is you got to remember that not every color is going to engrave with the same speed and power. That's because different colors react differently to the light. Some will reflect more of the light than others. Some will absorb more of the light than others. So depending on which color you start with, you're going to need to increase or decrease your speed, power, one of the two. You're going to have to change one of those two variables in order to keep from overburning or underburning your tumblers. Rule of thumb that I do with the colors is once I find that sweet spot, depending on the color, let's say if I'm doing black tumblers and that's what I'm doing my power and speed test on, typically speaking, and this is not written on a rock, this is generally speaking from my experience with hundreds of tumblers, is that if you're doing a black tumbler, and let's say you find that 50% power at 300 millimeters a second gives you the look that you want, then if you start doing a middle of the ground color like the oranges, or maybe a standard like a light green, or maybe a pink or something like that, you're going to like turn up the heat basically, is going to be required to do the lighter colors. So at that point, if you're running say 50% power, I'd bump it up to 60. Then if you go to doing white tumblers that are like highly reflective, then bump it up to 70. With this particular job, I'm running the blacks at 60% power, and then these middle of the pack colors, the oranges and some of the other kind of mid shades, I'm running those at 70. The coral, the pinks, the whites, the glow in the dark, all of those are gonna get 80% power. So I just kind of jump it up about 10% for the different colors. Now, depending on the pigment used, there's a lot of variables. Yours may be different. So I would strongly advise that you do some testing, or at least have some sacrificial cups, so that if you do mess up, you can just call that one a practice cup and continue on. I always, if I'm having a customer provide me with the blanks, I always explain to them that I need at least one cup of each color as a tester to get the correct settings. Sometimes I don't use them. Sometimes I get lucky and my guesswork is on point, and I can give that back to the customer. I just charge them that extra 15 bucks for that one. But sometimes you need them. So that's what we're doing now. As I'm got the orange ones going, I'm gonna do the same drill, guys. I don't want to keep beating a dead horse. I'm gonna do the same drill with the lighter colors. I'm gonna increase my power from 70, where I'm at now, up to 80% power with the whites and the light pastel colors. So that's where we're going. All right, guys, so I'm hoping to be through with this tonight. And like I said, if I can complete, which I'm about 50% now, it's 7:30. So hopefully I can get through tonight. If not tonight, maybe early tomorrow night, I'll be through with this job. And at $15 an engrave, it's not a bad night's work for somebody that's just kind of goofing off in their shop. The majority of the time, I'm just waiting on the machine to finish. And yes, guys, if I had a big commercial CO2 machine, I could crank these things out faster, no doubt. But I am currently just using my S1. It does a really good job. It's not the fastest machine out there, but I have made, just in tumblers alone, I have made more than enough money to have paid for that machine 2 or 3 times over. And that's the reason that I like it so much, is I've got it configured the way that I have, with the little fixtures or jigs in there to hold that RA2 Pro where I need it, and it just works, and I don't have any problems. The only issue that you could have is if you don't chuck it in correctly, you can get a little cant or maybe cause it to work loose. But other than that, this thing, the S1 with the RA2 Pro and the air purifier, the AP2, that's my tumbler setup. I have been running it now for about 2 hours, working on these tumblers, 2.5 hours. And so far, I'm not smelling any tumbler smell. So that's a testament to the AP2 as well. It does a good job. So there you go, guys. That is my secret to tumblers, basically perfect every time, in my opinion. All right, guys. So there you have it. That is my pick of all of the tools and machines that I have in my shop. I choose the S1 with the RA2 Pro to do my tumblers the way that I'm doing. I can use other machines, but to me, the engrave that I get and the accuracy and just the functionality of the enclosed machine with the S1 works really good. I've got a P2 also. I prefer the S1 over the P2 when it comes to rotary work. It just works better with the pointing system and the way that it works with the red crosshairs. To me, it's just a lot less risk of error with the S1. But I will be dropping links down below if you want to go check out any of the products that I've mentioned to you. And if you use those links, of course, it'll benefit the shack and hopefully help finance some future videos. So until next time, guys, be safe and have a good day.